So yet again, we're going to be talking about Emu's possible true form. I've got my boy Sai with me. We've made quite a few videos about Emu already.
Yeah, just at least 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm going to make like a whole just compilation video of the Emu stuff that we've done so far. But in this video, it's different, I promise, because we're once again reacting to a Dawn and Dusk video. Check out Dawn and Dusk if you haven't already. Great channel, deep cut Japanese One Piece stuff. But the long and the short of it is that Emu's true form, whether it is devil fruit or some kind of other thing that Emu and the Gorosei are doing with possible yokais or demon forms or whatever, is like a dragon or like a demonic type of dragon, and more so resembles like the type of dragon that we saw in Punk Hazard, which, aside from the other stuff that we've talked about throughout, the last year or so, I've always kind of thought that, because the main thing, I guess, for me is just the way that Emu's transformation looks in that chapter when Sabo is in the throne room and launches that fire at Emu and Emu eats it. I always thought that silhouetted mouth looked like the mouth of the big red orange dragon from Punk Hazard. And Dawn and Dusk has those two panels side by side, and it just makes me think that even more at this point. I know that you, Sai, are not really 100% on board with Emu being a dragon, but...
Oh, no, whoa, I'm 100%. I like this.
Oh, you're back on? All right, cool.
No, yeah. I mean, hey, it depends on what side of the bed I wake up on, but I go between Emu being akin to Luffy and then Emu being an actual Western dragon, which is what we're referring to here. Because I like both theories a lot.
Yeah, because also, and we'll get into this, but it's just the word dragon. It's thrown around so much in this series that
Celestial dragon.
It has to end with Emu being something like that, or at least the controlling party being a dragon of some sort. But there's usually multiple depictions of dragons too, which is interesting in One Piece. We've got we've been talking about the Western one with the wings, and then there's the Eastern one, the serpent type that doesn't have wings.
Yeah, and what's kind of cool about this distinction too is that the Celestial Dragons have shown an affinity towards the dragons, the Western dragons that we saw at Punk Hazard. Because if you go to the data books, the Vivre cards, we actually learn that the red dragon that we saw at Punk Hazard is named number 13. And there's 2 different versions of this. In the manga, Brownbeard says that the Celestial Dragons loved that dragon so much, they took a liking to it, that they gave it that name. But they're not too sure why or how. But if you go to the Vivre card, there's another piece of information that kind of fights against this, which is kind of weird, right? Manga versus Vivre card. But the Vivre card says that Dr. Vegapunk named the dragon number 13. So it's a weird toss-up with this, but either way, the Celestial Dragons do like Western dragons a lot. And going to some One Piece anime filler, and this is early filler, so Oda was definitely involved back in the day, in 2005, but one of the first filler arcs we had in One Piece had to do with the Straw Hats encountering what is called a Millennium Dragon, which is a Western dragon that has this immense power. And Oda loves his dragons at this point, right? Western versus Eastern. I'm excited to see what Oda's cooking up here. And I think there is a reason why the Celestial Dragons are named dragons at the end of the day. I think Emu could be what we're talking about here.
Yeah, well, I mean, also because, they are called the Celestial Dragons. So, it makes sense to name, your faction
at least
after,
one of them.
What you are.
Yeah, there's got to be at least one dragon in the group, right? They can't all be yokai.
I mean, there is one dragon in the group of the good guys, Luffy's father. Let's get into him, because... There's also seems to be 2 dragons kind of going on in this series at points. In Wano, we had Kaido, and then there was Momonosuke, the good and the bad, or just 2. You needed one to, I don't know, maybe go against the other. Punk Hazard, there was also 2 dragons. So it's possible that what's going on here in the big, broader spectrum of things is that Emu is the one big dragon, and then we have the other dragon, trying to stop that dragon, who is Dragon, Monkey D. Dragon. Still not sure why he has that name. I always assumed it was
crazy, huh?
Yeah, I always assumed he named himself that, but I guess he didn't. I guess Garp named him that.
Yeah, but like, and then like, you know, the names are spelled out in the katakana, so it's like, it's kind of interesting. It's like, so he's named Dragon, but in the verse, do they see him and think of a dragon, or is it just like, oh, that's a name, right?
Yeah, it's funny that you
That's
bring
like an
that
English
up.
word.
Dawn and Dusk also brings that up too, how you said the dragon's name is always written in katakana. For anyone who's a little confused by that, in Japanese there's like multiple forms of their writing, of course, and then whenever you see like those big looking characters that mean like a lot of things, that's like kanji. And in One Piece they do use the kanji to represent dragons like Ryu, but then with dragon, his is just written out like dragon. You know, it's not spelled like Ryu, which is interesting.
We have had like one instance in the series where they kind of broke the fourth wall and they actually gave us like a definition based off of another language, and that was with the Nox Pirates with Pedro, where he was like, yeah, Nox means you know, the dawn before the dusk, or I'm kind of paraphrasing there, but it's like, okay, yeah, like Nox is an actual real world word that's not Japanese that they brought into the series and gave an explanation to. So I kind of wonder if that's going to happen for Dragon eventually. Like maybe Garp comes out, he's like, yeah, I named him Dragon because I was thinking of actual dragons. Like we're not too sure how that's going to work out, but it feels very intentional that we have Garp, Dragon, and then Monkey as first names.
Oh yeah. Interesting. Another thing about Dragon is his ship, the Wind Grandma. I guess that sounds cooler in Japanese.
Yeah, it sounds way better in Japanese. In English, we're just thinking about like a windy grandma. You know, grandma's getting blown away.
It's like a black dragon. I mean, it's kind of serpenty throughout the boat, but like the head of it, the stern or whatever you call it, is like a cool looking dragon. Something I wouldn't be surprised if that's what Emu ultimately looks like. Another thing is that the flag, apparently it's changed over the years. Originally it was like a sword, and then it changed into that sword going into a dragon's head. And it just looks interesting. It looks monstery. If you flip it upside down, it could represent a crown with the sword going through it. I don't know, but what I'm getting at is that this could be hinting at Emu's true form, and that maybe Dragon even knows that Emu has a true form, and he's known this whole time. I mean, he's pretty silent when Ivankov is talking about that stuff with Sabo. But
yeah, he didn't say much, huh? They were like, hey, by the way, you know, Emu Narona existed in the past, and then Dragon's just hitting us with a ... He doesn't really speak much about it. He did seem pretty shocked that they existed, but like, what more does he know, right? We don't know anything about Dragon's time spent in the Navy. Like, we don't even know his relationship to Akainu or any of the other admirals. He's just, hey, he worked with the Navy for a little bit, he quit, he became a revolutionary, and that's about it. Like, he is a character who is quite literally still shrouded in mystery, even 1,000 chapters deep.
Yeah, which is hilarious. Him and Mihawk. Mihawk also could have some kind of potential connection to Emu. We won't get too much into that, but just remember, guys, Mihawk might have a connection there.
Mihawk. And one thing I want to point out too, one small thing I want to add in, is that maybe the Giants also know a little bit about Emu. So one line that the Giants dropped a long time ago, back at the very end of Little Garden, when they were defeating the giant goldfish, they used their attack, the Hakuoku Sovereignty, and they said that this attack, the only thing it can't pierce is the blood-soaked serpent, which it's a phrase that still lingers with the community to this very day. And a lot of people believe that they were talking about the red line and how they can't break the red line, and that will eventually be one of Luffy's goals. But also, another way to spin this is that maybe, since serpents and dragons are viewed in the same light, maybe they were talking about Emu, or somebody from the world government.
Yeah, it could be a double entendre as well, since, you know, it's kind of implied that Emu constructed the red line to be the way that it is.
Yeah.
It could be both. It's like, you know, breaking the red line and the person who made it. That would be, I would have put it past Oda. He does that stuff.
Yeah, there's something with dragons, man. And then you go back to like Zoro's one-shot, not Zoro's one-shot, the Ryuma one-shot, where the main villain was a Western dragon as well. In a Western town too, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, glad you brought that up. I forgot about that. What is that? Like, what is the Western dragon in the One Piece world? Because apparently it's like a thing that exists, but it doesn't anymore.
Yeah, I mean, based on the backstory we got in the One Piece filler, which, you know, I'm kind of using that as a headcanon right now, but in the One Piece filler, they said that the Millennium Dragons just died off and they went extinct hundreds of years ago. And they even have their own island that is hidden from the world. So maybe that's the same case here. Maybe there actually existed dragons in the past and they all just died out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that has to be the case because they were a thing for sure, which is
Yeah, and
interesting.
it's not the most insane thing to think about as well, since the ancient kingdom apparently had technology so advanced it puts Vegapunk to shame. So if we go back like 900 years, you know, if Western dragons were just flying around willy-nilly, I think that'd be fine. Like it wouldn't suspend the imagination too much.
Oh, that would be a cool visual to see. Yeah, yeah.
Dragons versus robots.
That is
exactly like what we saw at the beginning of Egghead Island.
Ah, there you go.
Ah.
I guess there's one more thing that we could talk about. I'll try to go through this as easily as I can. So in the Dawn and Dusk video, they ultimately connect Emu to being the embodiment of the North Star. Now, I'm skipping over a lot of stuff here. It also includes how the Gorosei are all connected to this through a pentagram and a star, which we've also talked about before. But long story short, back in the day, during the Egyptian times, the North Star was in a different location than it is now because of the way the world's axis tilts and over time and whatnot. But it was a part of the Draco constellation, which apparently Dawn and Dusk thinks Emu is based off of, or at least Oda based a part of Emu off of that. And if you look at like an illustration of what the Draco constellation looks like, it's like a serpent dragon, but its tongue is like an arrow. And that's really interesting because we saw that before with Emu back in that sequence when Sabo was firing the fire and Cobra wound up getting stabbed with that thing. Now, we still don't know what it is. I thought that it was one of the other Gorosei at the time, like using their tail to kill Cobra, but now it seems like this might belong to Emu, like more so than anything. And it's not even Emu's tail, it might be Emu's tongue. What do you think about that?
I don't mind that at all. I think the tongue works, the tail works too if he's a dragon. And yeah, I mean, dragons are sharp-tongued. I mean, bringing it back, people do look at dragons and serpents pretty similarly. So, you know, people say that serpents usually have really sharp tongues. So I think that could work.
So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Emu, very likely to be some kind of demonic dragon, Western-looking dragon to some extent. Other than that, the powers could be, like we've been talking about for a very long time, water manipulation, possibly. Not really sure, but check out Sai's channel. I'll have the link in the description as always. And have a great day. See you in the next one.